o'clock. I'll read this. This meeting of the Wilmington Town Hall School Admin Building Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who would like to participate in the meeting via Zoom can do so by signing on to this link. John, could you bring that up?
Yes.
Members of the public that would like to listen to the meeting while in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and enter the meeting ID 864-0549-3588. Then press the pound sign and the pound sign again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will also be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the meeting designated for public comment by following the steps previously noted, then pressing the *9 on their telephone keypad or by using the raise hand function on the Zoom. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. In the event that despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide for real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. All right, I'm calling this to order, so we'll do a roll call. When I call your name, just say here or present. Diane Allen.
Present.
Paul Melorani.
Present.
Kevin Kyra.
Present.
Jack Holloway. Paul Ruggiero.
Present.
Jesse Finley.
Present.
And also with us tonight is Jeff Hull. John Doherty.
Present.
All right, did I miss anybody? All right. First item on the agenda is approval of the minutes for December 20th. Has everyone had the opportunity to read the minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just have one comment though. In the attendance, it looks like Paul Ruggiero was here as a guest and not as a member of the committee.
Okay.
That's my fault. I looked up the committee on the town's website and I didn't see Paul there.
Also, I'd like to note that the date says December 21st and not the 20th. I'll have that fixed.
And also it should note 2021, not 2020.
Yeah.
So can I make a motion to table the minutes to our next a meeting with the corrections being made?
Were there other corrections other than those three that?
What typos in there, George?
What's that?
There's a couple of typos in there too, George.
Okay.
I can send it back to you if you want.
All right. All right, we'll table it to our next meeting for approval. We'll make those changes. Kevin, was that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
All right. I won't do a roll call vote on that unless I have any objections. All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? None. Seeing none, fine.
Second was by John.
All right, third item.
I'm sorry, John. The second, Dan, was by Paul, I believe.
Paul?
Paul Melorani.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you.
All right, third item on the agenda is for the architect's presentation review and discussion of the programs, areas, and the adjacencies. I know we'd already gone over this, so most of us have had the opportunity to see it. some of them we've all had the opportunity to review on our own. So, Phil, are there any things that you'd like to point out, or do we have any questions from the committee?
I don't have anything to point out specifically, no.
No? Any committee members had the opportunity to re-review this and have any additional questions that that they might not have brought up at our last meeting?
No. I
No
have none.
additional questions, no.
No.
Nothing. Okay. I'm not going to put these adjacencies or interior spaces to vote because right now it's all preliminary. So once we get more into the design phase, that's when we can accept these.
Okay.
Next item on the agenda. Johnson Roberts Architects will review their presentation and discussion on the location and test fit sites for the Swain site, the Glen Road site, the Main Street site, which is the St. Dorothy's Church, and with a committee vote on site recommendation possible.
Well, George, what I'd like to say is, you know, based on the presentation and the discussions that we've had over the last 3 months, I'd like to move that we eliminate the Glen Road site as the site for the new town hall / school administration building.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that?
Yeah,
Before you, I guess I would suggest before taking that vote, to at least give Phil an opportunity to go through the 3 sites for those who weren't able to make
Absolutely.
the prior one.
All right. Phil, would you, John, will you share his screen so he can bring up the site locations for review?
Did you want to, so it sounded like there was a motion and a second. I don't know if you want to take a vote but I just think it's not going to, it would be not advantageous to just go through each of the sites, but you have to decide whether you want to take a vote on that.
Yeah, I'd like to have the discussion first before we go through this. So
Okay.
give it its opportunity. Excuse me.
Right,
Are
so
you ready, Phil?
I'm ready. I have the same slideshow that I showed you all at the last time we met on the 20th. So it has a section on programming. It has a section on floor plan diagrams, which are really preliminary.
You can
and
go
then
right past those and go to the sites.
Okay, I can skip right past that. It sounds great. Okay.
That'd be slide 18, correct? Yep.
Folks see that okay?
Yes. Mhm.
All right. I was able to make my cursor larger. Can folks see that if I feel like I
Yep.
need to?
Looks fine.
Looks good.
Okay. So as you all know, we originally looked at 4 sites. We're down to 3, the Swain School site on School Street, the Town Hall site at Glen Road, and then the town-owned property on Main Street, which is adjacent to St. Dorothy's, which we've been kind of referring to as St. Dorothy's. As a review, all 4 sites are in the R20 zone. The setbacks are the same all the way around. So that doesn't make a big difference on either. And so I'm going to take these each at a time. We've done a test fit or 2 on each of these. And so as a review, here is an updated version of a test fit that we've done for this site that kind of responds to some of the earlier questions that we had on this site about whether or not we could accommodate a building of this size that we're looking at program-wise, whether or not we could maintain the existing Buzzell building and the 4th of July building, and if we could still maintain the green. And so that's what we've tried to do there. This is about a 6.5 acre site. It's relatively flat. As you know, it slopes up towards the rear between the existing parking lot. You could just see the end of the existing parking lot there, tucks underneath where we're showing this potential building, up to the Buzzell. And then it's reasonably flat, slopes up a little bit more at the back of the site. It's adjacent to the common. It's adjacent to the schools. School administration is right across the street. It's a downtown site. There is high school parking currently on site, which is one of the reasons that we wanted to look at a larger parking lot here. And so we've done that in this test fit. In going back to review how we had got where we were, we also noted that this was the site that was recommended for town hall in the 2001 master plan study. It was also the site that was recommended for town hall and school administration building in the 2018 Harriman master plan study. I just thought that was worth kind of pointing out again, because I thought it was interesting. I had forgotten that their recommendations kind of aligned with what we came up with when we scored this. So in this plan, we are looking at a 3-story or 3.5-story town hall building sitting right here, kind of built into the side of the hill. And it basically takes advantage of the building to kind of hold back the soil. And the idea here would be that you could get in at a lower level and then come in at the second floor from above. And there could be a connection between these two buildings if people needed to go visit both of them, or if they wanted to park in these potential additional parking spaces or in the existing lot, for example, and then get into town hall. You could certainly do that. Depending on what happens at the Buzzell, I could imagine folks that are going to park in one spot and do business at both of these buildings potentially. But so we tried to maintain the green and then get as many in the 4th of July building, and then we try to get as many spaces in here as we can. And so we looked at the possibility of adding some additional spaces up at the upper site. We thought, without knowing too much more about this site, we could probably get another 36 spaces. You could probably go a little bit further. My guess is that we'll get into some grading. And then I also understand that there may be some water leaching out of the rock up in here, and that gets picked up in a drain down below. And so we were kind of trying to stay away from that side of the site based on that, without knowing any more. We'll know more once surveying information comes in. But we were able to lay out this with 315 spaces here and 36 at the upper lot additional. And that basically gives us 351 new spaces. There's just under 250 spaces existing. And so that's a net add of 104 spaces. Your zoning bylaw requires 140 spaces for the size building that we're looking at, which we think is probably a little high. We don't know that you'll fill that many spaces on a regular basis. But even if you did, that would give you 211 spaces available if you still needed to have parking on this site. So as a test fit, I think it feels like, I don't know that we'd actually end up with a site that really looks this dense, but we tried to keep some islands, for example, at the ends of the parking spaces where you could do some trees and light poles and so forth, so that this isn't just a sea of parking. But that's all taken into account with this numbering. We took another look at this site. We're calling this an optional site plan. This is an option for this test fit. This is the same site, but instead of the building being built into the side of the hill, we've moved it out to the street. One of the questions that came up at one of our meetings and during the discussion is, would the building have a nice street presence if it was out on the road across from the common? Now, there's some buildings on the common as well. And so after looking at this one, some of the members of the committee in December pointed out that there's a green space in front of the high school, and that's kind of set back. There's even some green space in front of the smaller school administration building. But the idea here is that it would be closer to the street and out on the green. So we just wanted to take a look at what that would mean. This is also a 3-story floor plan. And we've actually pushed the parking out a little bit further into the hill here. This would probably, if you wanted to get these additional spaces here and get the number up as high as we're looking at here at 328, you're probably going to need some retaining walls around here. So this gives it, with the additional 36 spaces up above, 364 compared to the 247 there, or a net add of 117. Which, if you were using all 140 spaces for the town hall, that would give you almost 225 additional spaces that you could park at and use for something else. And again, that's just showing what it looks like if you try to kind of max out the site. Again, the blue lines here are the property line, and the red lines are the setback lines from the zoning bylaw. So we looked at the Glen Road site again, town hall site, and we looked at it two different ways. Again, this is a 19-acre site. It's relatively flat. You all know this site pretty well. The existing town hall is there. You could see it kind of outlined here as a simple circle, and then the parking surrounds it. This site is relatively flat. There is a brook and some wetlands that are associated with it, but it's on the adjacent lot and it's pretty far away. And the wetland setbacks, just based on the kind of GIS information we have, just barely kind of nip the corner of the site. So we don't think it's going to make a big impact on what you wanted to do on site. We probably have to go to Conscom and, you know, they need to say, okay, but it looks like we can stay out of the setbacks pretty easily. It's the current town hall site. Phasing and interruptions would be required during construction. Obviously, in order to build a large building like this so close to the existing, we'd have to phase it. And so I'll show you that to you, but it probably means getting in and out, opening this building, moving into it with some reduced amount of parking and so forth, and then temporary fencing and protection and so forth. So while they take this building down, and with hazardous materials abatements and so forth, that's probably a month or two to get that all done. And then once that's all done, you could regrade the site and finish the parking. That's kind of what that looks like. There were recreational uses on site. It's adjacent to residential pretty much all around, and it's away from the town center. So this is kind of a summary of what we had determined when we kind of looked at this site. So kind of zooming in on the front part of the site, you've got the existing town hall. So this shows phase one. The existing town hall would stay, build a new 3-story building close to this property line in this woodsy area here. So we'd have to take down these trees. We're trying to stay away from the ball fields in this case. We are into this little kind of pine grove that's between the parking lot and the ball fields right now, but we're trying to leave the concession building there. We've left the pickleball. We're trying to stay away from the playground. But again, this is really just a kind of a test fit, a quick sketch. Existing parking, we'd get in here with a drive around. We're showing 124 spaces, and that would be available when the town hall opens. You'd move in, and then they'd fence off this area, and then they do phase two, which is to take down the town hall and finish the parking. There's obviously different ways you could do that. But this is what something like that might look like on this site in trying to keep the ball fields. We also looked at what it would mean if we did not try to keep the ball fields or did not try to keep all the ball fields. And we also looked at what it would mean if this site were to be used for both town hall and senior center. So again, the feedback that we have on this based on what we did when we examined the sites is pretty much the same. But in addition to recreational uses are on site, there's a loss of various recreational uses on site. Otherwise, all these kind of bullet points are the same. And if we zoom in on this one as well, this one would be in 2 phases. I didn't do a drawing for 2 phases. It's basically the same thing. The town hall would stay here, and that second part of the parking and the demolition would happen in a second phase. But depending on how these buildings get built, it probably would end up being 3 phases if they were to both sit here. Town hall or senior center could go together, or they could be separate projects. But we're looking at a potential senior center. So the idea here is a campus plan. You'd have town hall, senior center, and then some of the remaining fields. The football, soccer field could stay here, and the ball fields in the back. You'd lose these 2 ball fields up here. Again, we're trying to stay away from pickleball and the playground as much as we can. But we're showing 300 parking spaces here. I don't know offhand exactly what the parking requirements are for the senior center. I'm assuming they're going to be similar per square foot that the town hall is. And then we put some additional parking spaces in there over and above what we think the town hall and the senior center would need to support the play fields. We think that's probably a reality, that if you're having a night meeting and a night game or something like that, that you're going to need some additional parking. So that's what what we're showing here. So the summary here was that we'd remove 2 ball fields, we'd remove the outbuilding, which is the concession area here. Parts of the playground, we may be able to keep, or we may lose a portion of it. We're gonna lose portions of the pine grove and some of the walking paths. The loss of some of the walking paths is probably also gonna happen on the other one as well, if we put the town hall building in there, because those walking paths go through this area. The next site we looked at, the third site we're looking at here is what we've been calling the St. Dorothy's site. It's adjacent to St. Dorothy's. Doesn't have an address that we can find. With these kind of smaller house lots along the back, it's 7.8, almost 8 acres. The front part of it is just over 5 acres. It is relatively flat. The visibility is pretty good. It's adjacent to the church. It's also adjacent to residentials. It's away from the town center. This site didn't rank as high as the others. We've got a little bit of a stream that runs through over here, Lubbers Brook. There is a setback, a river setback there. It doesn't impact the site. It's pretty far away. It's a 200-foot setback. We don't see any other issues on this site other than that. This is showing a 3-story building on the front part of the site and 140 parking spaces. Kind of zoom in on that for you. There's a spot for a small green here. We're trying to hold the building back from the road a little bit more, given the size of it. This building on this lot in this neighborhood is going to be quite large. And so we're trying to push it back from the street a little bit as much as we can. We're going to need to preserve some of this area back in here to do things like stormwater management. And so we'll end up cutting the majority of the trees out of here. And it's a tight fit for this building. And if you were going to plan for additional space in the future, I don't know that this site would be a great one for that, certainly. But it's kind of a squeeze to get this one on. The neighborhood is not great, I don't think, for town building. From an urban planning point of view, the downtown site on the common is the better one. I think that's it. This last slide was from the last show that I don't think that Dan needs to go over that again tonight, but is anything that you'd like me to go back and look at, or does anybody have any questions on this?
Bill, on the, this is Kevin Kyra, on the first slide that you showed when you gave some descriptions, would you say that it's the first,
That slide, Kevin?
I'm sorry, maybe the second, the one that shows the Swain school site. What you didn't have on here, and I don't know why, would you agree that this site is adjacent to residential? I mean, I see residential.
Oh, yes.
in the area,
Yep. No, you're
but
right.
you don't have it listed.
Yep. Sorry,
Okay.
you are correct.
Yeah, I just thought that should be made note of. It's a residential.
Also,
Yeah.
Phil, as you stated, no matter what site we choose, we have to do a geotechnical survey of these sites also.
Yeah, we'll need a topographic, an instrument survey, and we'll also need geotech on all of these.
Correct.
Any of these sites would require that.
All right.
But so I guess I'm a little confused. I know that there was a motion made by Diane Allen and seconded by John Doherty about eliminating the Glen Road site. But I guess I'm confused in watching the senior center meeting in November. They eliminated the Swain school site, because the site was too tight. The space was too tight to put a building on. Middlesex Avenue was too busy of a venue. And they were concerned about the challenging site of the ledge on the side of the hill, and what that would bring in regards to water issues and so forth, and conservation issues, but
But
and their concern too was the concern too was the student parking, but your rendition certainly addresses that issue. The student parking needs anywhere from, and I looked at it today, there was about 154 cars parked out there for the students, and I've been there in the past and made a few counts as well, up to 178. So it ranges, but the 315 certainly would accommodate. And I guess the other issue, the reason why they eliminated the Swain site was because of its usage. The usage of different events, the July 4th event and the car show event, and naturally student parking, and then events that are at night for the students, like sports events and shows, like concerts and so forth. So it boggles me a little bit, because if there was a tight fit for a smaller building, being the senior center, and we're proposing a 3-story building, which is much bigger with larger parking, why aren't we eliminating this site and just concentrating on the other 2 sites? And then I go to the site at St. Dorothy's, where you're saying that it's too tight, or it's a tight site for a town hall, but it's not a tight site for the senior center. So it's kind of confusing as to why we wouldn't be eliminating the Swain School site as opposed to eliminating the Glen Road site based upon the senior center meeting in all of their issues that they have with it.
Well, I don't want to speak for Dietz in why they made the decisions or recommendations for this site. But some of the things that they mentioned that they may have been concerned about in terms of different celebrations and events and so forth that happen on this site, whether they're on the green or in the parking lot, they may be, and I don't want to speak for them, they may be concerned that they are not as compatible with the senior center, but I don't see any problem with any of the different events that people have told me about that happen on this site and may continue to happen on this site would be incompatible with the town hall school administration facility.
So, yeah, I don't know if you should be speaking for the different firm, especially this is a different committee.
I do think that, though, from a context standpoint, the design that Phil is using is different than the design of the senior center. The senior center, it has a larger footprint. And, one of the things that was discussed at the joint meeting with the Board of Selectmen was to try and make sure that we didn't encroach on the Swain Green, and that we tried to fit the parking in. And that pushed the senior center up onto Middlesex Ave, the town common area. I don't know if that's Middlesex Ave. Right up to the same area that this is being shown, or in the back, because they didn't go into the hill, Kevin. And Phil has gone into the hill because if you look at his floor plans, which are in your, I think are in your package, you'll see that he's got one level up here and one level down here. So he's trying to take advantage of the topography. And the senior center is a single floor, where the town hall is multi-floors. So this is being put into the side of the hill and taking advantage of the parking spaces up by the Bazell. So by pushing it back, it creates more room. So that's why it's the two aren't really identical.
I think, George, may I also add something with regard to, if I recall from the senior center, is that some of the recreational space that was very much discussed with the seniors was going to be in the front, the green. And they didn't want that recreational space with all the busy cars going back and forth. The seniors are really looking for a quieter area, and the St. Dorothy site really fit that. And that is why I think the St. Dorothy site was voted for that. When we saw the positioning on the Swain Green, it just seemed that no matter which way the building was placed, that they were always in competition with something else going on. And even now, I believe a comment was made that when the students park there and they leave school in the afternoon, they rev up their engines and they zoom down School Street, so that even when the seniors are going back and forth to the Bazell School, heaven forbid anyone tries to leave or at the same time that school is getting out. So they were in competition with the students leaving the parking lot. There was a lot of discussion about those particular things going on with the senior center there. With the senior center at the St. Dorothy site, there was no intervention of school parking needs to be there, as well as some of the other things I discussed.
Right, there was plenty of discussion. I just reminder who we're on the Town Hall School Admin Building Committee here. So that's what we're working at. We have had the discussion.
Oh, no, Judge, I understand perfectly. I was just wondering why one was eliminated because it was too
Well,
tight.
I would have to say it's very similar to what we did with 342 Middlesex Ave. As we've looked at the sites and they've been identified, we had 4, we knocked one off, and now we're looking to do an elimination of another as we go through and finally come down to our objective of selecting the one site. So I do have a motion on the floor, and I do have a second. Motion made by Diane Allen, I believe seconded by John Doherty. At this point, I would take a roll call vote on eliminating the Glen Road site. All right, and I'll do this by, I'll call out, and you can either yes or no. Diane Allen?
Yes, to eliminate.
Yes. Paul Malorani?
Yes, to eliminate.
Kevin Kyra?
No,
Paul Ruggiero?
Yes.
Jesse Finley?
Yes.
John Doherty?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Did I miss anybody?
how about the town manager? Isn't he on this committee?
No, as it was pointed out at the last one, he's not a voting member.
I disagreed with that. I believe he is a voting member and he has a right to sit on the committees worthy chairman, but that's,
I would be more than
That's just
happy
me.
to, I would be more than happy to hear the input of the town manager.
Oh.
Jeff Hall?
I think that the Glen Road site for a town school admin, I would agree that it can be taken off the list.
Okay, thank you.
George,
Yep,
may I make a motion?
go ahead.
I move that the town hall school administration building be at the Swain Green, and it be in the first iteration where it's backed up against the hill.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Can I pipe in here for a second?
Sure, hold on. That motion was made by John Doherty and seconded by Paul Malorani. Go ahead, Dan.
I don't want you to box yourself into the exact location because it's going to move when we do survey and geotech, you know, a little this way, a little that way. Parking might move a little bit. I mean, it'll be relatively similar to what you see, but it can move. And
I would take that recommendation and take that caveat out of it.
So you're gonna amend your motion to be just to choose the site and not
Yes,
the
yep.
building location?
Yep, Thank you, Dan.
So I have a motion to approve the Swain site as the location for the new town hall. And do I have a second on the amended motion?
I second it.
Diane?
Second by Diane. I'll take a roll call vote. First, any discussion before I go into this?
I think, George, that should the motion also means, that we move to vote to recommend to the town manager? Or are we, for this site? Or do we just say, I vote to recommend the Swain School site? How is that?
I agree with
Should that
that.
be wor-
I would take that as to send a recommendation to the town manager.
Okay, so it really should mean that, John Doherty moves to vote to recommend to the town manager that the town hall / the school administration building be located at the Swain Green or Swain School site.
Swain site.
Okay, Swain
Correct.
site.
John, you agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Diane, second.
Judge, just a question on that.
Sure,
Should
go
it
ahead.
be, should it be recommended to the Board of Selectmen as the senior center recommended to the Board of Selectmen rather than the town manager? Just a clarification, that's all.
We make the recommendation to the town manager and then he presents it to the Board of Selectmen.
Is that the way, just to be clear, and Dan, you may recall from the prior meeting, but was that how the vote was
I
taken
thought,
to the senior center?
I thought we made the initial recommendations to the Board of Selectmen. And I still think that they need to go to the Board of Selectmen. They're the custodians of land unless your local charter is different and the town manager is the custodian of the lands. But
Okay,
No, I would agree. I think that, ultimately, the Board of Selectmen, the recommendation should go to the board. They are the ones that will create any warrant article or certainly establish the
absolutely.
warrant article, and they are the custodians of town land.
All right, it shall read that the recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
right.
Okay.
Okay. Again, we'll do a roll call vote. Diane Allen,
Yes,
Paul Malorani,
Yes.
Kevin Kyra,
No,
Paul Ruggiero,
Yes.
Jesse Finley,
Yes.
John Doherty,
Yes.
Jeff Hall,
Yes.
and myself would be a yes. All right, so I'll get that recommendation out first thing in the morning. Next item on the agenda, discussion of setting future meetings.
I believe, Mr. Chairman, we set up the senior center to be going
So we're doing every other week.
every other week. So we would be going 14 days from now. And then,
So the senior center is on the 12th, then we will be the following Wednesday.
right,
This time
And
seems to work.
that's the 19th, George.
Correct.
Okay,
If I can, the school committee, we do have a meeting on the 19th. We had to add an extra meeting, so Mr. Fennelly and I would not be able, and Superintendent Brand would not be able to attend on the 19th.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, we'll try to get the material to you. We'll see if this will be also going by Zoom, if it'll be remote. Something tells me I think it will be, but we'll get that information out to everybody. All right,
I know it's not necessarily directly related to future meetings, but I suppose in some measure it is. The so the next steps, there is already a recommendation on the senior center, and it sounds like, George, you're going to prepare a similar recommendation on this siting. So these would be brought forward to the Board of Selectmen's meeting. I'll be talking to the chair Thursday for these items to be placed on the agenda to be a board to consider if the board authorizes citing of these two buildings, and specifically the town school admin building. Then what are the next major steps for the architects? What are the next major
Jeff, can I ask you, Jeff, at the Board of Selectmen's meeting, are you just going to be presenting the recommendation, or are you looking for our OPM and maybe some committee members to be there also to give
So I would be looking to have the a presentation similar to the one that was done back in, I forget whether it was October, or where the OPM and the architects outlined the basis for these recommendations.
Okay. All right, so myself, Dan, Phil, you'll have some material. I don't know if any other committee members.
Jeff, I'll put together the two designers and we'll put together a presentation. I think it was pretty clear from the Board of Selectmen meeting that they want a clear and concise presentation. So we'll put together a presentation, and we'll probably include some bullet points on questions that they raised in the October meeting and answers to the questions that they had raised in the October meeting, so that we can get some of their concerns that they raised in October addressed, as well as move forward with the recommendations from both standing committees.
I also think, Mr. Chairman, that it would, from the December 20th meeting too, that probably the comments that were made with regard to some of the issues with the senior center being placed where it was, that those also be included as well.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Paul.
Jack Holloway informs me by text that he has dialed into the meeting, has been present for the whole meeting, heard the deliberation.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if he's able to do it. He said he would vote yes on site selection or the way the committee voted. So I'll leave that up to you. I don't know if open meeting allows that.
He was not rung in at the time of the vote. I would respectfully say that his
That's fine.
his vote,
That's fine. He's listening. He's not.
his vote is not cast, but we certainly can list it in the meeting minutes that,
Sure.
post vote that he had dialed in.
I'll defer to you guys, but he just notified me by text. He's just dialed in as any viewer would. For some reason, he couldn't
Okay.
connect to the computer or get onto the Zoom. So I'll leave that to you guys. I'll defer to you guys for that.
All right. Also, I see Superintendent Brand is here. If you had any comment that you wanted to make tonight, Glenn, give you the opportunity.
No, thanks, George. Hi, good evening, everyone. No, I appreciate just being a part of the discussion and the deliberations. I know this is an important project for the town, and certainly welcome the opportunity to be involved.
Thank you. Any other comments by committee members?
George, I just have a couple of final comments I would just like to make.
Sure.
The reason that I feel so strongly about this Swain School site for the town hall / school administration building, in that, as well as having worked on the master facility plan, we talked a lot then, and we've talked a lot now about creating a town center for the town of Wilmington, something that we do not have. And I believe that with the placement of this building being sited there, we are going to be close for the school administration, as they are already across the street, but that was a big plus. We create a center where we have a lot of town municipal buildings. We're going to have the high school, we're going to have the school administration, we have the library, we have our forefathers built the original town hall in that area. And I believe that the appearance and the final building and placement of this building, when it's created at that site, I think will bring to closure for a lot of people that ask the question, well, where exactly is, the town center of Wilmington? And also since September 15th, I mean, we have all been sort of in agreement with both groups, even beginning at that meeting, with the numbers that we projected and everything. So I think that, and the architect for this particular site has not gone back on his word. He has felt right from the beginning, and he has given us many plus and minuses on all the sites that he has investigated. And so he still strongly recommends this site, and that's what we're paying our architects for, is to give us good advice. And I believe strongly that we've had 3 months and plenty of time to go through all this. And I really hope that the presentation is done well on the next meeting of the Board of Selectmen, and that they hopefully will take this vote of confidence that this board has made, for both projects. That's all I want to say. Thank you, George.
I appreciate it, Diane. Also, everybody's efforts. I know this is our second bite here at the apple. We've gone back and forth over this. We were asked to do our due diligence, and I feel we have gone through that process. So, and I agree with you. I was on those committees also for the facility master plan, and trying to develop a civic center or a community center for the town of Wilmington. I think was key part of that. So. Do we have any public comments out there, Mr. O'Neill?
Mr. Chair, we do have a couple of people. I imagine one was Jack Holloway, but there's another caller, Virginia Wilson. If she does wish to speak, she can hit *9 on her telephone keypad. That'll indicate she does have a public comment, and I suggest waiting a couple minutes to see if anyone wishes to speak.
I see Jack has joined us here. Jack, did you want to make any comments?
Jack, you're muted.
Unmute. There we are.
There
Hey.
you are.
Jack, welcome to the meeting.
Yeah.
So George, this caller does wish to speak. I'm gonna unmute her now.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mrs. Wilson, is that it? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I really don't have anything to say, so you.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. So that being said, I'll entertain one more
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to
Who
adjourn.
said it?
I did, John Doherty.
All right, John.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I was second.
Paul
Oh,
Maloney.
I'll arm wrestle you, Diane.
Have you seen her play pickleball? I don't know. All right. I won't go with a roll call vote. I'll just try to do the majority here.
You really should do a roll call.
You want to do a roll call vote? All right. We'll go back to roll call. Diane Allen,
Yes.
Paul Paul Millerani,
Yes.
Jack Holloway,
Yes.
Kevin Kara,
Yes.
Paul Ruggiero,
Yes.
Jesse Finley,
Yes.
John Doherty,
Yes.
Jeff Hull,
Yes.
and myself, yes, that's unanimous. All right, thank you very much, everybody.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
See you on the
Good night.
Good night.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.